honorable panelists that are here with us, both physically and virtually. And then we're going to go to a section two. It's going to be an open forum. We're going to want to hear from the participants here, a recommendation also from participants online. And finally, we're going to have a question and answer session. And also, we're going to sum up, the moderator is going to sum up this session. So, without further ado, let me introduce our panelists that we have here. So I'm going to start with our panelists that are online. Uh, I would like to call on Mrs. with on Fatima Adelodun. I hope she's with us now. This are you with us, ma? Okay, she is waving at us.
Hello,
We
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, and thank you for joining us. Fatima Adeludu is a seasoned technology specialist and cybersecurity professional, and she has over 10 years of experience, progressive experience in that way, in designing and implementing large-scale security projects. And she has diverse hands-on exposure in cybersecurity and has demonstrated good success in creating and executing projects in that regard. So we are very honored to have you with us, Ma. And I'm going to move on now to introduce our other panelists. Online as well, we have Mr. Samila Atsembako. Is he with us? Mr. Samila, are you here? Okay, I want to believe he's there because we just spoke a short while ago. So Mr. Samala Stembako is also an experienced cybersecurity professional and an educator with good experience in digital forensics and internet governance. He has been quite involved in the internet governance space for quite some time and has provided good mentorship and leadership for the younger ones that come after him. Uh, Professor Adeshino Shodia, I am aware is joining us online as well. Please, are you with us, sir? Okay. I'm going to confirm that a bit later. And finally, with us, we have physically here in Lagos at the venue, the zone in Bagada, Mrs. Elizabeth Isa. Please, I would like to call on you to just come on this mini stage with me. Thank you very much. We did not clap for those online. Did we clap for those online? Okay, okay. Yes, so Madam Elizabeth Yisa is a seasoned cybersecurity professional, information security manager, and a promoter of child online protection in Nigeria. She's a member of ISOC Nigeria chapter, the Information System Audit and Control Association (ISACA), and also the Computer Professionals of Nigeria Association (CPN). She's a certified information security manager, and she currently leads the team handling child online protection initiatives at the New Media Information Security Department at the NCC. She also serves as the principal manager in that department. We're very honored to have you here, ma. So, just for us to have good context on this discussion, I'm going to read a short brief. I'm sorry that I'm reading it. I'm just moderating this on very short notice. So, just to give context to this information, I'm going to give a very short brief of this panel. So, what we have here, we said for a country such as Nigeria that is planning to improve the scope of its development and truly emerge as a strong digitally empowered state. Expansion, development of internet infrastructure, we have agreed that is going to be a critical component of our development plan. But even when we look at this development plan and this infrastructure and what the government is doing on making digital transformation work in this country, what value would this have if this internet infrastructure cannot provide trust to the citizens? What value does it have if it's insecure, if it is untrustworthy? So this is the major talking point of this discussion, and I'm just going to go ahead and read the rest. So Nigeria is undergoing major transformation in the digital space, and with the recent digitized national identity program and other broadband and data infrastructure investment that has happened, led by both the private sector, the government sector, and other internet stakeholders, uh, we have to look at the responsibilities of internet stakeholders in supporting this infrastructure to be sustainable and as well as being secure. We have to look at what is happening in Nigeria. According to a report by the Guardian newspaper, which is one of the very trusted newspapers in Nigeria, and also backed up by Kaspersky, a multinational cybersecurity firm. We saw that in 2021 alone, we had over 89% increase in cyber attacks on Nigerian small and medium scale enterprises. And this is one of the challenges that we face, and one of the reasons why we are also having this breakout session. And to advance digital transformation in Nigeria, I'm sure we all agree that trust must be built. Most often than not, frameworks and regulatory frameworks are the tools that we're going to use to ensure that this internet is secure, safe, and trustworthy for the Nigerian internet users. So we have to look at the current digital frameworks in Nigeria. Are we keeping pace with the digital transformation globally? Is Nigeria able to keep up with this to ensure that we have security? And finally, we have to look at the concern of the speed that emerging technologies are coming in, and if we are able to also keep up with that. Where are we now? What do we need to do? And how can we be more involved in ensuring that we can build trust in Nigerian digital services? So this is just a short submission to give context to our discussion, and I will now go on to our online panelist, Fatima Adelodun, and I'm just going to ask you for your opinion on this. What is trust in the digital space? How is this related to information security? I just want to have an overview of your thoughts on trust as a component for driving digital transformation. Please, over to you, thank you.
Hello.
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I had to turn off my video because I don't know. I think it was breaking a lot. I'm not sure if it's the bandwidth, but please let me know if you can hear me correctly or clearly. Mm. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All right, thank you. So if I got your question correctly, it's basically just me explaining why trust is important in the digital space. Please let me know if I got that correctly.
Yes, I was asking for your expert opinion on what trust is in the digital space.
Okay, that's a really good question. Trust in the digital space speaks directly to the core of cybersecurity, if you will. Trust. So I don't know who was speaking earlier and was talking about how everybody now is online, how we do like our payments, our verification, authentication, and all of that online now. I'm here in Abuja and I'm dialing into a session that is holding in Lagos, and I'm trying to be as layman and basic in my terms as possible, so there's no ambiguity at all in my communication. So trust is a fundamental aspect of the online world or the digital world that we all exist or play in now, because it is just essential that if you're trying to conduct or perform a transaction, or you're trying to even as simple as this breakout session room two now that we're in, it's just essential that only the people that have been authorized in whatever capacity are able to dial in, right? And this is me bringing it again to a very, very basic concept. So taking it up a notch now is also then ensuring that in an organizational space or in an individual or personal space, so at home, you have a CCTV camera, everybody can relate to this, right? You want to ensure that trust is important to ensure, and privacy, that only you or people that have the credential to actually log into your CCTV space can access what's going on. There is no cyber criminal or hacker somewhere that is also dialing in and looking into your home, right? Coming into an organizational space, you want to ensure that only the people that are authorized to do certain things on your network or to perform certain activities on your network in your domain are able to do so. And then bringing it, to a national or global space of trying to order something online, trying to make payments online, trying to complete transactions online. It is important, is fundamental, that that trust is there, that trust is guaranteed, such that if I put my card on a platform, I can go to bed, just knowing that nothing has happened to my card, or nobody has had access except the online portal or the online merchant that is supposed to be able to be authorized to perform just that transaction that I wanted to complete. So trust is important right from the personal space to the organizational space, and of course now transcending to the global space where whatever you want to perform online is that aspect of the CI, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your environment, of the platform, of the transaction is guaranteed. So again, trust is fundamental, is a core aspect of everything that we do digitally these days.
Thank you very much, Ma. I think that was quite informative. We got a broader scope of what trust is in the digital space. You've been able to tell us that that is even one of the most important bedrocks in digital transformation. You gave examples of using it in the business space, in finance, and I would say that was really great to hear from you. I'm going to move on to Mr. Samaila Atsembako. I just want to ask for your opinion, very short as well, on what trust is in the digital space. I think it's going to be great to have multiple views of this, as this is multi-stakeholder. By the way, they're from different stakeholder groups, so we can also see that we are engaging different stakeholders in these discussions. Thank you very much. Over to you now.
I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, I had technical issues where I am. I'm not in my usual meeting spot, so I apologize for joining a bit late. I think I was able, if you don't mind asking the question, I think you, or rather, I think you said something about what it means, what trust means in our digital world today, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Um, I wouldn't say too much because I partly heard what I think Fatima, the last speaker, said, and she kind of did justice to it, to be very honest. It's basically knowing that what you're doing or what you're trying to engage in is legitimate. If you want to do something with another body or another person, you want to be able to trust that what I'm asking for is what I'm getting. Who I'm talking to is who they are. Where I'm clicking, where I'm going to is where I want to go to. Not that you click A and you end up in B. And when we look at the kind of cybercrime that happens on the internet, it's usually an abuse of trust. Either I'm claiming to be someone I'm not, sorry, either an attacker rather is claiming to be someone they're not, or they're directing you to a place you are not intending to go to, or they're making you get some information that you are not supposed to get, or they're making you give information to someone you're not supposed to give it to. So usually a lot of issues we have as a function of the abuse of trust we experience. And so in our digital world, like you rightly said, uh, trust is a very important pillar because if you don't trust what information you're seeing, if you don't trust where you're going to, if you don't trust who you're going to, you would probably wouldn't even want to make use of technology in the first place. And so I believe that it has to do with it has to do with integrity. It has to do with knowing that what or who you're interacting with is what or who they say they are. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Samaila. That was great as well. So we've been able to establish what trust is. We've been able to come to an understanding on what exactly trust is and why it is so important in advancing digital transformation in Nigeria. And just to move on from that, I would like to come to the fiscal room now to Mrs. Elizabeth Yisa. I would like to ask you for your thoughts on the current state of Nigeria's internet and digital services. Looking at the rate of cyber attack, just like I said earlier, why do you think we experienced a spike from 2020 to 2021 in the number of cyber attacks in Nigeria? How would you describe the current state of the Nigerian digital space now?
Thank you. Thank you, Oshoke. Yeah, so we know that 2020 was the year of the pandemic, and so almost everybody went online. That's one of the main reasons Nigeria faced that spike in having more people being attacked and being victims of cybercrime. However, we know that government is also trying to put things in place, and we know that in 2021, the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy was launched, and that policy and strategy is actually a very, very detailed document, stating how all stakeholders, government and private sector, are supposed to work together to improve the cyberspace in Nigeria. So the truth is, even if government has its own has its own part to play, all stakeholders equally have their own parts to play as well to ensure that we can fight this. Now, this Global Cybersecurity Index, as stated in that policy, stated that in 2019, our position in Nigeria was 57. We came in 57 as ranking. But as at 2021, our ranking actually came up to 47. So that just goes to show that all stakeholders are working hard to improve the cybersecurity posture in the country. And I believe with all hands on deck and the multi-stakeholder model we're all embarking on, we're going to keep on improving and get to the place we want to be. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. That is something that we actually need to also look at. You mentioned something that was very important and very key, and especially with the COVID-19. Yes, we would all agree that at that point everybody was at home. At that point, everything came online, and at that point, there was a lot of opportunity to be attacked because you had no choice but to be online, and we saw that it's only natural that there was that spike, and so we were able to hear from her that uh, the ranking of Nigeria and in cybersecurity cybersecurity was also affected as well with this rise of this COVID-19 pandemic, and that is actually one of the effects that this had on the country and on the digital space. So now moving on to the topic, which is building trust in Nigerian internet ecosystem. Uh, Madam Isa has also elaborated on why we are at this stage in our digital space when it comes to trust. I would like to go to I don't know if Professor Additional has joined yet. Uh, please, can you please unmute and okay, he has not joined us yet. So we're just going to move on from that, and I'm going to move on to Mr. Samala now. So now I spoke earlier about the current strides that Nigeria is making in ensuring that the Nigerian digital space is secure and trustworthy for the citizens now. What do you think of the current security infrastructure in Nigeria? Now, I'm asking from the aspect of let's look at security operation centers, for example. Do you think we are adequately prepared to be trusted as Nigerian digital space? Looking at the just the general infrastructure, and I highlighted security operation centers as one of the key examples because I know that in Nigeria we have very few of those. We have very few small and medium scale enterprises that can actually leverage on data security points in Nigeria. So what do you think about the current security infrastructure in Nigeria at this time?
Um, I think we are making some progress because if you look as recently as just 5 years ago, you could count the number of cybersecurity companies doing what you're referring to in terms of security operations, like monitoring systems and responding to incidents and threat hunting and things like that. But we're also going beyond private companies offering these services. We're now having organizations themselves having their own capability, their own in-house expertise as regards to these issues. We're having even government bodies now that have their own, they've been able to build their stocks and they're building their teams. And we in the industry, I'm sure Fatima and others who are in the industry can confirm that we've been clamoring for even sectorial sets, sectorial SOCs to be established so that issues that plague particular industries can be addressed properly. So what I can say is that we're not where we're supposed to be, but there's some bright lights. Even the review of the NCPS was a good sign because there are some provisions in that policy and strategy that would grow the industry, that would take the industry to the next level. And we are also, I want to also use this opportunity to also talk about the fact that the Cybercrime Act is also due for a review, and a review of it will also help us to improve the whole industry. I know you're talking about infrastructure, but beyond infrastructure, we have to look at things from the policy angle. So that's why I'm going back to policy. But in terms of infrastructure itself, we're at the mercy of the dollar. That's another issue we have. So, and we don't have the local capacity to build tools. So we are always leveraging foreign tools, foreign companies, foreign partners, foreign expertise, which costs a lot. And that's why, like you said, a lot of SMEs don't necessarily have this in-house capability. And many of them cannot even leverage these managed security service providers as well. So that's where there's a gap. In terms of local infrastructure that can enable security, we look at network infrastructure. What kind of bandwidth does the everyday user have access to? What kind of bandwidth is affordable for a typical SME? These are issues that reduce the cyber capability that we end up having in the long run. If you look at the manpower, what kind of graduates do we have? What are they learning in school? Are they learning COBOL and Fortran? Or are they learning Python and Ruby? The cybersecurity courses we have, are they writing code, or are they writing their stuff on Biro and paper, or are they using computer and cloud infrastructure or cloud platforms to learn and simulate these things that they're trying to learn? So when you look at infrastructure, there are so many gaps everywhere. But like I said, there are some little things to celebrate. There's some little good things, and we hope that this the small progress that has been made can be built upon by the relevant stakeholders like the government, private sector, and other relevant bodies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samaila. I think you mentioned some very, very pertinent points. And one of the key things that stuck with me was when you mentioned policy and regulation, which drives me to my next question. And I'm going to ask that to Madam to Fatima Adelodun. I just want to ask you. I know you are quite experienced in this field. I just want to ask, has there be any point where the current policy and regulation framework in Nigeria has startled you, has muzzled you, stop you from doing something that you know would be, let's say, better, easier, or implementing a solution? Is there do you see any gaps? Do you see any need to improve the current policy and regulatory framework? I just want to gather from your experience, how has the current policy and regulatory framework in Nigeria affected the information security space?
Okay. Um, so sorry, I think there was someone that was not muted, so there was a bit of interference. But I think I got your question, and it's surrounding like the current policies in cybersecurity, and if there's any gap. As Please repeat it again. I'm sorry.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Is it quite clear now?
Yes, 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 I can.
Okay, yes. So I was asking for your thoughts based on your experience on the current policy and regulatory frameworks we have in Nigeria. How has it affected the cybersecurity space? That was the question.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So I'll start with what Samila talked about in terms of just some policies that exist that maybe need to be updated. An example is the Cybercrime Act, right? There are a lot of policies that exist now. Again, the way I see cybersecurity, the way I see cybersecurity is everybody's business. So in answering this question, I'll answer from the national level and then I'll drive it down. So in terms of the gaps that exist, maybe just some updates that need to be made to reflect the current state of things, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, just the emerging technologies. Some policies would need to be updated, of course, to reflect just this changing technological evolution that is unprecedented, that is happening every day. I know that there are a lot of acts, there are a lot of regulations. An example of it is also the data protection regulation. I think you mentioned the Child Protection Act as well. There are a lot of regulations here and there and acts that concurrently are in place. But in my opinion, some of them might just need to be updated again to reflect our current reality. Also, then I think the gap that maybe exists is then the integration of all these acts, of all these regulations. and also then buying everybody's, like what you're doing now, involving all the stakeholders, so that not that this, acts and regulations are, existing the way they are separately, but then the stakeholders are also aware. I know not everybody in the cybersecurity, even in the industry, is aware of some of these acts, and it's because maybe some of them were not, effectively um, incorporated in the decision making process. So for me, some of the gaps that would need to be addressed on a national level would be the update of some of these policies to, reflect our current realities. Also, then the effective engagement of all stakeholders in the industry, and not just in the industry alone, but also like the public sector as well, the common users out there. Because at the end of the day, like I started with, cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. So if you make policies or you make regulations, and the ordinary user out there, who are always the weakest link, are not aware of, certain loopholes, or how it affects them, or how it affects the national security of things, then in a way the policies or the efforts, that are put into all these things might not be totally translated into how it should be. Again, I like to talk about cybersecurity in terms of everybody's responsibilities. Semaila has also talked about the fact that even our current curriculums in some of our universities are not even up to date, right? So again, those are some of the areas, that definitely and urgently need revision and update, in terms of them bringing people to, start working on this curriculum to really, really reflect the reality of things as of 2022. And that includes, having Python, having, Internet of Things, having artificial intelligence, machine language, reflect, and cybersecurity, of course, reflected in our, courses for the students. So it goes down the line, right? Organizations as well need to do a lot in terms of just increasing the awareness of their staff, so that the staff not only know what they're doing right and wrong, but they also can trust that the organization that I've, chosen to work with is protecting me to a good extent, and I'm doing my part in ensuring that I don't expose them to cyber attacks. And then obviously it comes down to everyday users, and that is where stakeholder engagement is, really important. When you and I know how we actually affect the grand scale of things in terms of cybersecurity, that affect the national security as well. Knowing what is right, what is wrong, what to click, just in terms of advocacy here and there, educational and promotional awareness here and there. And yeah, those are some of the things that I'll talk about.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was quite rich. There was like a lot of things to take from there. And there was something you said that really struck me because I'm a recent graduate myself, and as a graduate of computer science, at that point we did not know, but after school we found out there was a lot of things to catch up on. So I think it's quite very, very important that we need to look at the education sector. We need to look at the curriculum, so that when we don't have graduates coming out trying to catch up on a lot of things that they should have done in the last or the past 4 years. So that was quite very rich, and thank you very much um for your opinion and thoughts on that. So now, just to move quickly because of our time, I'm going to come back to the room here in Lagos at the zone Bagada, and I'm going to ask Madam Elizabeth. So I know Madam Elizabeth does quite a lot of things, and one of the arts that she puts on, apart from child online protection and cybersecurity, she's also an educator. I know she's quite involved with Nigerian girls and some of the work they do in SEC in regards to training. So I would like to ask you this question. I believe we all know what digital literacy is, but just to give it a bit of context, that is just uh, you being able to use digital services, you being able to use technology to a very good extent. Just to summarize what digital literacy is, just to find out your thoughts. How can digital literacy be used as a tool to improve our current standing in trust, to combat cybercrime, to ensure that we can build trust from the citizens in Nigerian digital services? What role does digital literacy play? How can we use digital literacy as a tool to achieve that?
Thank you, Ashoke. So, the truth is, before anyone can move digital, they must first be literate. Before you go digital literacy, you must first be literate. So in trying to say people should be more digital literate, they must have the necessary education to understand the basics and have, like, for example, Nigeria, we have basic values that, we have family values, we have, community values and all that. Once they understand the values they have, they're able to translate those values into the digital space. So when it comes to training, really is to let people know that once you're literate, you can improve on that literacy by enforcing such values when you go digital. We've had a lot of cases where people just go online and believe they are invisible, and that gives them the right to misbehave online or to make some outbursts, which doesn't make sense. But if you take time to look at maybe the individual or the group, you find out that that's what they actually do in the physical, and that's why they're translating that to the digital space. So in encouraging people to be more digitally literate and also improving their trust online, it first starts with improving trust in themselves on the physical interaction rather with those they have. For example, if I'm here with you and I'm sitting and I don't believe I can trust you, there's no way I can trust you in the digital space. But once I know I have a relationship with you and I see you online, automatically I have that trust that, okay, I can deal with you online because I trust you to a particular level. So that's the role I believe that physical relationship has to do with improving the digital trust for individuals who decide to have digital literacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. One of the things that I heard you say that really struck me was looking at uh, online activities, the activities that Nigerian citizens do online. And I just want to ask you a follow-up question on that. We all know that there's a big issue with misinformation, fake news, and this can also be attributed to advancing trust if we cannot curb that. How do we find a balance in regulating social media activities without necessarily trampling on the rights of citizens? Because that can be a very tricky part of information security. We have to ensure that everybody is safe online, but we also can't muzzle people too much online. So how do we find a balance between regulating social activities and trampling on the rights of citizens? We have a participant online. Okay, that has been muted. Yes.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of the question?
Okay, yeah. So I was saying, how do we find the right balance in regulating social media or online activities and without trampling on the rights of the Nigerian netizens?
All right. So we know globally everyone advocates for self-regulation or minimal regulation when it comes to social media. However, most regulators in countries, even in Nigeria, usually liaise with these social media providers, all the platform providers, to provide some form of privacy and security on their sites. So unfortunately, most people don't know how to enable that part of, having their privacy or security while they're online. I'm going to give the example of some of the, outreach we have done to like girls or children. When they're online, they just believe I'm online, I'm safe. They don't realize that when someone tries to bully you, all they have to do is click on report and block, and immediately that person is flagged. Most people just see that and they either ignore or they just block. But we usually tell them the social media people work with law enforcement in most countries. So once you're able to report them before blocking, there's a flag on them. If you notice recently, there's some sites that you just find out an account was active and next thing it disappears. That's because most people keep on reporting. Once, I'm not sure what number each site has, but if you report a particular site, 1, 2, 3, 4, immediately you know that law enforcement or that social media site takes action. So honestly, the social media platform providers are trying to do their own part, but we still have a long way to go in ensuring that this balance is created. So for people who are making use of such sites, there are even some adults, for example, who don't know what they need to do, even when they are online. There was a time a colleague of mine, was a friend of mine, was on Facebook, forgot to log out on the app, and traveled. And that's how the app kept on announcing his movement until he reached the final point. And at that point, I was like, why is he telling me he's so and so? I don't want to know that. And I realized it was Facebook announcing. So I had to tell him, can you please log off Facebook because you're becoming a threat to your own self. This is an adult who didn't even know this was happening. So he had to go in and enable those settings. Most people need to know that those settings are available and they need to be enabled. And then always report when you notice any unusual activity. And law enforcement, most times, will pick it up. Law enforcement, of course, is doing a lot. There's a long way to go, but honestly, they are really trying to build their capacity in that area. And so far, they are working closely with the Office of National Security Advisor to achieve most of this trust and affect trying to get all these cyber criminals who are attacking or disturbing people online. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I listened to what you said, and I think one of the key things that we can also get from that is there's actually a lot of work being done, and most especially there's collaboration between social media providers and also the regulators of the internet, and we have some options online that we can use. However, this can still be improved, and that is why we're having a multi-stakeholder discussion. So because of our time, we still need to have an open forum where we can have people both online and in the venue share their opinions and thoughts so we can have a robust policy document. I'm just going to move on quickly to the state of the Nigerian child online. That is also one of the most important things in building trust in our digital spaces. We know that the youth as one of the I don't know the exact figure, but we are more than every other age group in the country. And also the same can also be said for children who are closely matched with the number of youths that we have in this country. I would like to go back to the online participant now. Fatima Adelodo, I'd just like to ask you, do you think the Nigerian child is safe online? Like with what we have discussed with the current state of the Nigerian digital space, can you say that the Nigerian child is safe online if they are online unsupervised?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think that's a really important question. First of all, because I'm passionate about, just cybersecurity. And then obviously like then the rate at which, kids, teenagers and obviously adults now are using, internet. So how safe is the Nigerian child online? That's a really big question. I will not be able to put like a figure or a percentage to that. I'll just start again from the national level and say that I know of several efforts in terms of regulations and discussions and acts and policies that the government is making just to ensure that the Nigerian child is safe online. So one of it is the Nigerian Child Online Protection Act, which now, just to give a general high level introduction to what that is about, is basically introducing a stratification method. So normally you would have child or adult content, but for this particular act, it has gone further to stratify the what you call a child. So is it 0 to 6? Is it 6 to 12, 18 to something like that, such that the content of what kids see or what kids see online is guided by that stratification. I know the Intermediary Act as well has enforced liabilities on platforms. So it's not just a matter of the government now, but also the platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, to have some liabilities in terms of what is hosted on their platform. So if something happens online, it might not be the direct responsibility of Twitter or Instagram. I mean, they are not the ones that are actually perpetrating those acts, but there's some liabilities now on them to, take ownership of things that are hosted on their platform, of things that are done on their platform, to also take that active and proactive measures to ensure that, things are filtered, you can report things online, you can, if it comes down to it, investigate and get, perpetrators online, just in terms of, a level of granularity and enforcing them to take responsibility for what happens on their networks or on their platforms. Those are some of the things that are being done in terms of the government level to ensure that the Nigerian child is safe online. So to a good extent, I'll say they are working or efforts are being, intensified to the best of my knowledge, and just based on some of these acts that I've mentioned now. And again, honestly, I don't leave anything. I don't think we should leave everything to the government. It should also start from ourselves as parents, as school owners, as employers, to take additional steps in terms of first of all the awareness, and then just security controls, security measures to ensure that things are able to be reported and actions are taken whenever there is any sort of incident that occur. So not take too much of your time. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. I'm just here smiling because a lot of things I did not expect to hear that I heard, and that was quite great. And just so we're just lucky to have someone of your experience answering a question like that. So just to move on very fast to Mr. Samaila, I would just like to ask you, going back to our previous discussion, so that we can round up. What are your recommendations? Uh, what do you think the government can do, and not just the government now, more importantly other internet stakeholders, because we can already see that the government is doing quite a lot, and things can be very very um slow from their end. So what do you think, what are your recommendations to internet stakeholders? What do you think we can do to close the current cybersecurity gaps and improve trust in the Nigerian digital space?
I think the first thing in any project, in any wide project you want to do, the first thing you have to first do is awareness. How many people in our space are aware of these dangers that we're talking about? We're looking at the cybersecurity industry, or the internet as a whole. How many people understand that the internet is not a safe space? Because if a lot of users know that this internet that we are always using, that we love using, is used by also kidnappers, by all manner of criminals, pedophiles and the likes, then we'll be more careful. For instance, there are many parents, and I know many of us here may be guilty, that when their kids are bugging them, if you just give them that tablet or that phone, they will give you like 20 minutes space so you can breathe. It solves the problem of your kid disturbing you, but you forget that your phone you're giving them access to, it's also giving them access to other people, like in other words, giving those people access to them. We have situations where even gaming sites where you typically just go to play games and enjoy yourself are now breeding grounds for grooming, where pedophiles go to find their next targets. So the internet, yes, has these uses, but there are these dangers. So how many people are aware of the depths of this problem? When we now raise the awareness levels, we can now start talking about the prevention of falling victim. And when you look at prevention, parents need to know these things, to how to protect themselves and how to protect their words. The government, yes, they can do their part in terms of policy, in terms of launching initiatives or supporting movements that are good. That's helpful. But on their side as well, what is the punishment? So when people are found guilty of this, what's the punishment? Are there people that are above the law? Are there people that when they commit these crimes, they are ignored because of who they are, who they are connected to? These are issues that can be easily addressed from the government perspective. And when you look at the kids themselves in our schools, in our homes, in our churches or mosques, wherever we are as a community, what are we doing to enlighten these kids that these things have, for instance, age restrictions for a reason? It's the reason why this thing is called PG-13 or PG-18. It's the reason why Twitter doesn't want you to go on Twitter before you turn maybe 13 or whatever the age limit is. If they are, it's one thing to tell somebody, don't do this. Don't go and talk and dance naked, for instance. It's another thing for them to understand why that dancing naked can become a problem in 20 years' time when they want to become a minister or a governor, or when their kids become of age and see them dancing naked online. So it's one thing to tell people don't do something. It's another thing for them to understand why they shouldn't do it. And when a time where the kids want to know the why, you can't do it. It's not like when I was growing up, my mom tells me don't do something out of respect or fear, I won't do it. Kids now will ask you why, and they will actually be curious. So we must learn how to explain these things to them, let them know the why. Gone are the days of giving fictitious stories to just scare people away. These kids are so curious, and even we ourselves are curious. So people need to understand the why, so so they can understand the dangers and then take the necessary steps to prevent themselves from falling victims to these problems. I think that will be all from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Samela. Those were very great recommendations. And just to move on now very fast, we have about 27 minutes to go, and we still want to have the participants give their opinions on this topic as well. Madam Fatima Adeodo, I don't know if you would like to be called Madam, so I'll just call your name. I would like to ask you for what you think we can do, like your recommendations on ensuring that we have better digital literacy. We've been able to establish that digital literacy is one of the most important things that we can use to combat cybercrime and improve uh, digital transformation and trust in Nigeria. So, what are your recommendations to internet stakeholders, especially in respect to improving digital literacy of the Nigerian netizens?
I'm really sorry. I have to ask you to repeat the question. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Is it clearer now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better. It's
Oh,
better now. I hope you can hear me too.
yes, yes, we can hear you. So
Okay.
I was asking for your thoughts, for your recommendation. If we're asking you for your due to your experience, what are your recommendations to internet stakeholders? That is the private sector, the public sector, citizens, technical society, academia. What are your recommendations on improving digital literacy? As we've been able to establish the fact that that is going to be one of the most important points or tools to combat cybercrime, which will in turn advance digital transformation in Nigeria. So, what are your recommendations on improving digital literacy in Nigeria? That was the question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that question. That's a very broad question, and I hope you're not tired of my method, like my waterfall method of responding to your questions. But I'll take it from the national level again, and I will say that for everything that works, right, government must play a very present and active role, right? So honestly, to drive the digital literacy, it will be from just the regulations and policies that government have set. So is one that then enable or create, the need that the private, sector then has to fulfill. So, for example, take the data protection regulation that was passed recently. Because government has made it mandatory for organizations to comply, there is now the offspring of different institutions and private, firms that are trying to, the data, I can be a data protection, organization. I can help with this. I can help with that. By government creating a need or an act, there will be private organizations that will look to fulfill that need for government or for the organizations that play in the private and public sector. Or it's for government to look holistically at some of the things like the challenges in the cyber space, in the digital economy space, with, holistic and effective policies. Taking it down now, that would enable government, that would enable just private institutions, private owners, business employment, for people to want to achieve those needs. So if it then comes to organizations, I'll try to make this as realistic and relatable as possible. So for the data protection now, there are now organizations here and there, foreign, local, that are then trying to play in this field so that organizations understand what data protection is and they are able to adhere to that, to the act or to the regulations under the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation Act, right? That's bringing privacy, bringing data protection, bringing it to home, ensuring that we are protected on that aspect, you and I. If that happens, organizations will be forced to comply and the private and public sector will thrive to a good extent. Now, coming to the organizational level, if organizations then have fluid and effective policies as well that borders on bring your own device policies, just what you can do on on a corporate network, corporate domain, then employees as well would be forced to comply with those policies. So, to not go to an organization and, watch porn, for example. You know that when a phishing email comes in, you're able to recognize and not click on certain links. Again, then bringing it to organizational level, we're safer, right? And if we then go, those policies that government would have set in place would also set up maybe startups here and there because of just the enablement of government for startups to spring up and help with, I can do cybersecurity awareness for you. I can do managed security operations center for you. Just different things will begin to spring up. And maybe people can then go into say schools again to do like awareness because schools again will be mandated to have cybersecurity awareness sessions for their students, for their staff. That enablement, that togetherness, that integration of just the policies, the people, the players will make for a safer environment or safer internet space in Nigeria. So it's the setting of those policies. It's bringing all these stakeholders together to work together. It's not just in silos because if you have the Child Act and you have the Data Protection Act and you're not bringing everybody together, I don't know about it. Smiler does not know about it. The engineer, like we don't know about it, then it really is a lot of effort, it's a lot of all the investment. So it's bringing everybody together, making us aware, making us cut these things and mandating to a good extent some things that must be enforceable and making people accountable, not just saying this is compulsory, but then there is no way to check or to, give consequences for people that are not complying. That is the way to go about it.
Thank you. Those were very pertinent and rich recommendations, and I hope the rapporteur got all of that. But that was a lot of information to take in, and I'm also really happy to hear those recommendations because you raised some very important points as well. But before I move forward, I would like to recognize the presence of our final panelist. He is around now. It's probably Lagos traffic. Yes. So please, can you just come up with me? So since we have just very few seconds left, you're welcome, sir. So I have here with me just joining Professor Additional Shodia. Is a professor of computer science and information security in the Department of Computer Science from the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State. Is a PhD holder with focus on information security, and he has trained multiple generations of the next IT leaders. He's also the president of the Nigerian Computer Society, and we are very honored to have you here with us. Thank you very much, sir. So we have actually gone very far, because we started quite a while ago. But since you are here, we're very grateful for that, and I'd just like to just ask you for your opinions on this final question. So we have spoken about the current state of the Nigerian digital space. We've been able to identify reasons why we're at that state. We spoke about infrastructure, and also one of our panelists, Mr. Samara Atsembako, spoke about capacity building and digital literacy. So I'm just going to ask you, you're a professor, you're a leader of the Nigerian Computing Society. I would like to ask for your opinion on uh, what do you think of the current crop of IT leaders or IT professionals that we have now? Do you think these IT leaders that we have now, based on your experience, based on the computer society, do you think they are well equipped enough to I'm looking for the right word now to withstand cyber attacks? Do you think we are very well positioned to be trusted as the Nigerian digital service providers, digital service practitioners? So that's just I know it's a broad question, but do you think we are well equipped as computer? Do you think the current computer and information security professionals in Nigeria now are well equipped? Do they have the right capacity to uh, properly ensure trust in Nigerian internet space?
Really apologizing for having to come to this event late. I had to also attend to some other issues. uh, in Nigerian Computer Society this morning, and I also attended an event at Sheraton before coming for this event. So I'm indeed very sorry. Uh, I'm a kind of person that keeps to time, and of course our profession. It is very important that we also keep to time in our profession. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion. Are we in the morning now? Afternoon. I'm happy to be part of the discussion because this is really my area. When you were introducing me, uh, I've been a professor of computer science and cybersecurity for over 7 years now. And I've been monitoring, I've been part of all the things that have been happening in the area of cybersecurity in Nigeria for quite some time. Your question has to do with the current IT leaders. Are they qualified? Do they have the requisite skill to be able to ensure that we have trusted digital systems in Nigeria? Well, when you talk about IT leaders, you also talk about IT leaders at different levels. We have at the level of the innovators, we have innovators, we have our leaders, maybe the CTOs, the people that have been put in charge of coordinating the affairs of cybersecurity issues in their various organizations. And we also have the head of government institutions and so on and so forth. But as it relates to digital systems in Nigeria, building digital systems, of course, nowadays our IT innovators, our young innovators, they are coming up strongly. So many of them are creating innovative systems. And of course, generally, when you are building any IT-based systems, there are two major ways of incorporating security into it. One is, we call it bolt it on. One is built it in. Bolt it on, well, you are interested in meeting up with your requirements. You want to build a system that can meet up with specific requirements, functional, non-functional requirements, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, when you are finished building the application, the system, then you start thinking of how to incorporate security into it. But the second option is getting more popular, and that is built it in. And it has to do with incorporating security from the beginning of the development process until you get to the end. And of course, nowadays we are talking about secured software development, secure development of technologies, and that makes you to start thinking of security from when you have started creating the ideas. And I think with that will give us opportunity to continue to build trusted systems. And if you are talking about trusted system, you are talking about system that is resilient, a system that is survivable in the face of attack, a system that is reliable, that is efficient, a system that can continue to meet up with its goals and services, even in the face of attack. A system that is safe, a system that have little or no downtime. All these components go into when you are talking about trusted systems. And of course, that should be the goal of everybody building solutions in the tech space. It's not about, yes, I want to create a solution. If your solution is not trusted, it will not be attractive. And of course, the interest. We had a discussion about 2 weeks ago on building innovative systems with our young innovators. And the idea is that we want to look at how we can build solutions that we will not only use in Nigeria. We are talking about building solutions that we can also export, that we can use to enhance our national GDP, that we can use for economic empowerment, and so on and so forth. And if you want to build such solutions, you must be thinking of building trusted systems, reliable systems, survivable systems, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. All the panelists that we have today, I told you earlier that he has trained multiple generations of next IT leaders. And if you have not learned anything here today, you should learn build it on and build it in. And explain that we are running out of time now. We are supposed to let one or two people from the participants speak. I'm going to just give opportunity for one person, either online or offsite. And the first person, is there any hand online? Going, gone. So we have one person here physically here, and we're going to just give you please just 2 minutes to just give your thoughts on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I thank all our speakers here today, particularly our professor, because while other speakers were talking, I some questions came to my mind, and I felt it would be better to ask somebody in the academia. So I'm very, very much happy that we have our professor here. Now, my question is, Mr. Some of our speakers earlier have mentioned some challenges being faced currently by the faced on the internet space. Now, I want to ask, what challenges ranging from inadequacy of our laws, inadequacy of the manpower, the cybersecurity experts, and he also mentioned, I think he also mentioned uh, um, the very expensive security solutions that we have that most individuals and corporations cannot afford. Now, my question is, what can we expect? How do we move forward from here? Should we expect, especially from our professor now, should we expect improved curriculum from universities in terms of the ability to instilling in the students the ability to combat cyber crimes, and can we expect subsidized certifications, because sometimes we usually run into having too expensive certifications that may not be qualitative at the end of the day. Can we expect that from stakeholders? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So before I allow you to answer that, sir, I would just like to get 30 second final words from our virtual panelists, just for 30 seconds, final words, and then questions. So we can close off. We still have a high level panel I go for. So, Mr. Samela, please go first. Okay, no, ladies first. Let Fatima do that. It's just 30 seconds. So we can.
You said final word, right?
Yes, 30 seconds.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Hear you.
You asked for final word, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my parting words would be that, and I've said it severally, cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. There are different efforts, nationally, statewide as well, that, are being targeted at cybersecurity. But I believe that ultimately we are responsible for our security. So from the devices that you have in terms of your handheld devices, phones, to, your cameras at home. I'm very passionate about that. To, what you do in the workspace, you are responsible for that, and you should take the ultimate responsibility to update your devices, to have, multi-factor authentication. That's on a user level, right? And then leave governments with the acts that they are also doing to secure the space. I don't want to direct anything or any statements to government, because I know that government is aware and they are also doing their best. And I hope that, this sort of initiatives to bring everybody, the stakeholders together, to harmonize the efforts, to harmonize the, challenges and ways to tackle those challenges. I hope this initiatives continue to bloom and secure our internet space.
Thank you very much. Mr. Samuel, Fatima has taken out of your time, so you have like 15 seconds. So please.
Well, just in line with what she said, there's no, if you spell the word security, there's no security without letter U, So, everybody has, like she said, everybody has a role to play in your various capacities, as professors, as teachers, as bankers and the likes. Look for the things you can do to improve the security of your organization, of yourself, and of your family members.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So coming back to Lagos here, Madam Elizabeth, your final words.
So, just like my co-panelist stated, everyone should do their part, and as parents, as teachers, as educators, we need to know what we need to enable online in order to also help our children to be safe online. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to answer the question for your final words, I just want 1 minute, 30 seconds. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me quickly answer our question. You see, cybersecurity, especially at the level of the university, is just maturing. NUC approved a degree in cybersecurity maybe just about 3-4 years ago. So it's just maturing. And of course, we want to thank NUC for approving it because we need a lot of cybersecurity experts in Nigeria. We are not there yet. There are still so many people even calling themselves cybersecurity experts. But when they are faced with the real work, you don't see them there. So we need people that are really competent, that have the knowledge, the skills in cybersecurity. And we have very few of them. So it is a new area. If you are interested, you can come into it. You can develop your capacity. We need more experts in cybersecurity in this country.
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you to the participants that have joined this session as well. I hope we've all learned things, gotten to a few recommendations, and most importantly, gotten action points that we can work on and replicate in our and organizations as well. So just to close up this session, I'd like to thank everybody present here as well in Lagos and also the person that asked the question now. We're going to have a short break for 5 minutes and then we're going to be taken back to the main room so we can join the eye level session. So thank you very much. My name is Igono Oshuke once again, the makeshift moderator, and I hope I was able to a bit. Thank you very much.